following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
Time now for the most listened to talk show in Vegas.
You think we're fighting, and I think we're finally talking.
Talking with those on the right, the left, and everywhere in between.
Quiet. Shut up and let me answer, okay?
Answer.
Pot him down, please, because this is another MAGA who doesn't understand how to have a conversation with somebody.
It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
I'm kind of a big deal.
This show will make you laugh, make you cry, and it might raise Brian's blood pressure.
You know what, dude? People like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
All the smash and grabs and everything. Yeah, tell me, what race is doing that, first of all?
Okay, so you want to be a racist now. Okay.
What race is doing it? Seen it on the news?
I don't watch Klan TV like you do, sir.
Buckle up, because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
All right, what's up, everybody? A very busy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, Orange Man is in town. He's got a rally. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few. Man, do we have a big show lined up for you today. Coming up here in about 15, 20 minutes or so, we're going to be joined by Anthony Scaramucci. That's right. The Mooch is going to be joining us. And then in hour number 2, he's known as Brooklyn Dad Defiant. He's got 1.3 million followers on Twitter, a very popular left-wing blogger. Brooklyn Dad Defiant joining us, and Ed Krassenstein, 1 million followers of his own, political commentator on this story that's out allegedly that Donald Trump groped a young teenage girl underage. We'll talk about that as well. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, why not introduce right off the bat the 45th president of the United States to ask him about this and more. It's always a pleasure having Donald J. Trump join us on the show, especially with how busy he is. Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us, sir. How are you?
Brian, can you hear me?
I
Can you
can.
hear me, Brian?
I can. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Fantastic. It's so great to be back on your show. I'm doing fantastic. I haven't had a day off in 70 days. I've been working hard for 70 days straight, other than the days I've taken off and the days that I've golfed and my shift at McDonald's. Other than that, I've been working straight through. It's unbelievable.
Mr. President, what happened at McDonald's? I mean, I didn't see you flipping any burgers. I saw you learning how to make French fries. Why did you do that?
I came in there, I have my French fry certification card. I didn't want to get into the burgers. It's very complicated with the multiple buns and the pickles and the lettuce, and you got a squirt gun for. I said, listen, I love fries. Your fries are fantastic. And I wanted to put more salt on the fries. And they said, sir, you can't do that. High blood pressure. And I said, I'm very, very healthy. So we made, let me tell you something. Those fries are so good when they come right out of that bubbling oil thing with all that, the greasy oil thing, and they throw it into a basket, and that was truly incredible. I loved every second of that. And these people who complain and go, oh, it's so hard. It's so hard to work at McDonald's 40 hours a week on your feet. I did it. I did an entire 15-minute shift. It was very easy. Everyone was very friendly. I didn't charge anybody like the people who work there. You know what I mean?
Right. But Mr. President, I was told that the store was shut down and those weren't real customers. Is that true?
Excuse me. There were real cars and there were real people. And I guess you could say they weren't real customers because they got the food for free. But the fine with me. It's fine with me.
All right.
But that's a real McDonald's in Feasterville, Pennsylvania. We had 25,000 cars lined up after
wow,
that.
20,000.
And that store is doing very, very well.
Wow.
Other than the E. coli scare, it's doing very well.
Interesting. I didn't see those 20,000 cars. I saw a couple, but that's
of course
okay.
not, because the fake news. I'll send you a video, Brian. I'll send you a video.
All right, send me the video.
Send you a video.
Mr. President, I have to ask you this question. There's news that is coming out that apparently there's a video of you groping a young, underage girl. Can you comment on this at all?
You make this sound like this is new. They do this every time to me. They come up with a video. Ivanka's on my lap. Ivanka's on a bed with me. Some teenager. How would this not happen? I owned the Miss Teenage Universe pageant, and I had to squeeze certain parts of their bodies to make sure it wasn't fatty. That's all I was doing. I checked their teeth. I checked their butts. You know, you heard me say to the one woman, you could shave off a few pounds. You heard that.
I did
so
hear
this
that.
is not anything new. And listen, Brian, other than me sawing a baby in half on Fifth Avenue, my MAGA people will never leave me.
All right,
They'll never leave me. They don't care what I do.
But
they don't care what I do.
Mr. President, weren't you close with Jeffrey Epstein? Like, can you be honest with us?
I stood right next to him.
You guys were buddies, or what's
and
the deal?
by the way, did you know Elon? He was investigated too. So don't just point the finger at me. I mean, Elon was, And what about Bill Clinton? He was on the plane. I know because I was with him. So that's how I knew he was there.
That's fair. If you're just joining us, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, your opponent, Kamala Harris, did a CNN
Kamala.
All right.
She's a comma. That's what she is. She's a comma. She's a comma and a la. She's a comma la la.
A comma. All right. Well, that's.
I call her Kamalama Ding Dong. I call her Kamalama because she's not very bright. She's not very bright. Did you know that I am up to be in Mensa? Did you know that? Because I'm so smart.
I did not know that.
And she's up for Densa because she's so dense. She's so dense.
Interesting. I never heard that one. Well, she did a CNN town hall last night, Mr. President, and
that was horrible. That was horrible.
Well, why weren't you there, Mr. President? Why did you chicken out? Come on.
I didn't chicken out. I didn't want to be on stage with. You know what? I let her hang herself. You know why? Did you watch it?
I did.
She was very clear and to the point. You know what I mean? You got to do the weave.
Yeah, clear.
Someone asks you a question about policy, and then you talk about 8 other things, and then at the very end, you pull it all together, and you still haven't answered the question.
Yes, clear and concise.
Actually answering questions.
I know.
And by the way, they didn't ask her any questions about sharks, about electric boats, about dogs eating cats, and other things.
That's true.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the geese, which is fine with me. Have you seen geese poop? My golf courses are covered in geese poop. You can eat those. Have a geese buffet, Asian. That's what I always say.
Foie
Eat
gras.
them all.
I do enjoy foie gras, I'll be honest.
Foie gras.
Yes.
Foie gras.
Is it true, Mr. President, that you have praised Adolf Hitler? Because John Kelly said you did. Is that true? Can you set the record straight?
I never praised Adolf Hitler. What I said was he did some good things too. I am fair and balanced. I'm fair and balanced to a fault, just like Fox News, fair and balanced. He did some good things, right? Didn't he? He did the Autobahn. He did the Volkswagen. Hitler did Volkswagen. Hitler did Volkswagen.
Yes.
So I think that, guess what? I looked it up. Do you know what Volkswagen means?
You tell me.
Know what it means?
You tell me.
The people's car. The people's car.
So you think Adolf Hitler was
Volkswagen
for the people? You think he was a people person? Or what do you think about that?
There are good people on both sides when it comes to Hitler.
Fair enough. You're just joining us, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, you're in Vegas today, and I am
in Vegas.
I have a bone to pick with you.
I feel like I live here, Brian. I feel like I live here.
I feel like you live here too, Mr. President. I have a bone to pick with you, though. So you guys credentialed me to the event today. And then a couple hours later...
That was a mistake.
Yeah, then you denied me credentials. Mr. President, do you have any insight into that, why that took place?
Because we don't want you there.
Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty direct.
You're very mean. You're very nasty. And once you're there, you'll be there and you'll be bugging people. Asking, questions. Look, it's very simple. I am there to make America great again. MAGA Gaga. That's what we want. And you want to tear it down. You argue with all my MAGA people. They call in and try to make a point. And you use logic and intelligence. That's not fair.
I'm so sorry. You're right. My apologies.
You're far too prepared when you talk to my people.
Well, we got a week and a half to go before Election Day, Mr. President. If Kamala Harris defeats you, will you concede?
No. I would never concede. Do you know why?
Why?
I'm not a conceited person. Why would I concede? Why would I concede?
I have...
I'm very humble.
Yeah, you're extremely humble. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that,
Very
Mr.
humble.
President. Sure. Anthony Scaramucci, speaking of humble, Anthony
I
Scaramucci,
love the mooch.
he's
I
coming
love
up
the
here
mooch.
in a couple minutes. What would be your message to him? He lasts less than 2 weeks working for you. What would you say to the
Yeah, he just wanted to say he worked for me. That's all he wanted. Him and his sky bridge and his billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Anthony's a very interesting guy. I do like him, but sometimes I disagree with some of the things he says, and sometimes he's been very, very mean to me. He's been very mean to me.
I'm sorry
You
to
know
hear
what
that.
I mean?
Yeah, I'm
But
sorry to hear that.
I love Italian people. I love Italian people, especially him. He's like what, 4 foot tall? He's got a lot going on for a tiny
He's got a lot of
person.
money. I want to ask you a question about Arnold Palmer because you seem to talk about his junk. You talked about the size of his junk, Mr. President. Why would you?
Tremendous penis. He has a tremendous penis. You know what I mean? And that's what women like. Women go, oh, it's not the size, it's the motion, it's knowing how to. Believe me. If you would have seen this thing, it actually talked. His penis talked.
It did.
That's how big it
Wow.
was.
Is that what happened when you took your clothes off in front of Stormy Daniels? Is that the same reaction?
Well, here's the thing about Stormy. Listen, if Stormy had been with Arnold, that would have been something else. But it's not fair. Everyone always, brings up Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels was a professional sexual athlete. And she'd been with Mandingo. She did like 8 guys at one time. I mean,
Wow.
It's just not fair. I'm very good, by the way. I'm a tremendous lover. I had sex once for close to 30 seconds. So I think that's, I probably hold the league record.
Wow,
right
you went Jeopardy. That's interesting.
Absolutely.
There. 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
That's
But Arnold
impressive.
was a very talented guy. Very talented guy. I don't even know how he swung the club, to tell you the truth. But now I know why Melania always asks for an Arnold Palmer at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, so that's why she asked for an Arnold Palmer. By the way,
I didn't know why. Now I get it.
Now you
I
know.
get it.
Where is Melania? I haven't seen her anywhere, Mr. President. Where is she?
I don't know. She was with me in New York at the Al Smith dinner. She actually prefers New York to Mar-a-Lago. But when I'm not at Mar-a-Lago, she's there. But when I go to New York, she goes to Mar-a-Lago. It's kind of like a chess game with her. But I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of her. And when I get sworn back in on January 20th, I'm sure she'll be standing right there. And Sleepy Joe will be there on the podium with, oh, come on, man. There's no joke. What's going on? Hey, bunch of malarkey. Can you believe this guy is still president?
Man,
It's unbelievable.
I'm actually surprised J.D. Vance is still your vice president because you've said some demeaning things about him on this show in the past.
He won't be around for long. So, Peter Thiel, who's a big contributor, forced me to take him on. But it's okay.
Fair
It's
enough.
okay. He's trying. He doesn't have charm. The problem with JD is he's not a charming guy. He was the pudgy kid you beat up. You know what I mean?
Right. I get what you're saying, Mr. President. Last question for you. As I mentioned, you have an event here in Las Vegas tonight, a rally. Would you like to give everybody a preview to the people in the great state of Nevada? What do you plan on talking about tonight in your rally in Las Vegas?
Well, we're going to open with 39 minutes of me just kind of swaying to the music, which I think will be great. Then I'm going to spend 15 minutes just walking from end to end of the stage, which I think will be fantastic. By the way, we're locking the doors.
Oh.
No one is allowed to leave.
That's fire
Nobody.
code. You're breaking fire
Nobody.
code.
Who cares?
Jeez.
You think I follow the rules or the laws? Give me a break, Brian. Haven't you been following along?
That's true.
And then I'm going to talk about Arnold because people love that now. Even the women, they get it. And then we'll be doing the dogs and the cats. Then we'll be hitting all the hits. We're doing all the hits. This is it's like Elton John and Billy Joel. I'm just doing the hits tonight.
Just the hits.
Where am I tonight?
You're in Las Vegas tonight, Mr. President. Yeah.
Yeah, but where am I in Las Vegas?
You're at the
Where
Thomas
am I?
and Mack Center where the UNLV Runnin' Rebels play.
Oh, that dump. We're there. Oh, I gotta fire somebody. What a
You are.
what a piece of crap.
You
Can't
are.
believe I'm at that.
That's where you
Dump.
are, Mr. President. Well,
Why am I not at the Venetian or something nice?
I've heard your
something
campaign
nice?
ran out of money. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't understand this. These people are mismanaging my money. It's really horrible. I have to fire some people.
Well, you've been known to do that in the past, but one person I don't want you to fire is your friend, who I believe is sitting right next to you, John DiDomenico, joining us right now. John, you are the best Donald Trump on the planet, and I was dying. I couldn't even get through this interview because you're making me laugh so hard. How are you doing?
Oh,
John?
good. I'm always happy to hear that. That makes me very happy.
This is a very busy week and a half for you, John, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been pretty much nonstop. I just had to do a live satellite thing with, I won't mention who it was, but we did that this morning. Now I'm with you here in Las Vegas, and tonight I'm doing stand-up as myself at Bagel Mania, 7 p.m. door, 8 p.m. show with a great lineup of some really fantastic local talent.
Bagel Mania. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Give out your socials, too, because you as I say all the time, you are a genius. Give out those social media accounts.
You can find me pretty much anywhere at The Johnny D Show, online at the JohnnyDShow.com, on Instagram, The Johnny D Show, on YouTube, The Johnny D Show #1. So you put The Johnny D Show, and you're going to find most of my socials.
John, you are a living legend, my friend. I always appreciate it when you take the time. I love you, buddy, and thanks for coming on,
All
as
right,
always.
Brian.
Take care.
I'll talk to you, man. Tell the Mooch I said hi.
I will. He's coming on in a couple minutes. I will. Thanks, John. You're the best,
See
pal.
you,
All right. John DiDomenico, everybody, also known as Donald Trump, the best Donald Trump impersonator in the world from The Howard Stern Show. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, for real, Anthony Scaramucci will be joining us. I don't know if there are any Mooch impersonators, but Anthony Scaramucci will be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this with the Mooch. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
In these uncertain times, we need a leader who puts policy over politics.
I'm Ron Quince. I am beyond the bickering and what we see today. I am running to fight for your values, faith, family, and freedom.
Ron Quince stands for safe borders, lower taxes, and lower prices.
Let's take our country back, one community, one vote at a time. I am Ron Quince, and I'm asking for your vote because every vote matters. I am Ron Quince, and I approve this message.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at radioyou101.com.
Message.
Shelley Berkeley, a proud Las Vegan who shatters barriers, becoming the first in her family to attend college, and served as UNLV's student body president, serving in the Nevada legislature, the University Board of Regents, and 7 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. Shelley excelled as the senior VP of the Touro University system. Shelley Berkeley, a dedicated mother and family woman. Shelley has the experience we need as our next mayor. Shelley gets things done.
Paid for by Shelley Berkeley for mayor.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday, or I'm sorry, on a Thursday. My mind is spinning. There's so much going on. And joining us a little bit later on in the program, as I mentioned, Ed Krassenstein will be joining us. Popular left-wing blogger Brooklyn Dad Defiant will be joining us. Very busy news day, and we're hearing these rumors that there's this video out there where Donald Trump allegedly is groping an underage girl. I don't even know if that will change the result of the election or change anybody's mind, quite frankly, at this point. But to talk to us about this and so much more at such a very important time is the man who worked for Donald Trump under 2 weeks, but he worked for Donald Trump. Of course, I'm talking about the mooch himself, friend of the show. Love having him on, Anthony Scaramucci. Anthony, thank you so much for being here as always, my friend. How are you?
It was 11 days, and you can use it in a sentence, Brian. Like you could say,
true.
Kevin McCarthy lasted 24.5 Scaramucci's.
That's true, actually.
Liz Truss, you know what I mean?
Very true. Thanks for coming on, Mooch, as always. Always good to see you. How you feeling now? We're a week and a half out. You've done everything you can to help, to make sure that Trump doesn't get anywhere near the White House ever again. How you feeling? We're like 12 days out now.
Okay, so anybody that says it's a lock on either side, I don't see that because the polling doesn't show that. But the Trump people are euphoric and ecstatic. They're calling for landslides on Fox News. They're sending me these snarky messages that we're kicking your ass in and she's not running a good campaign and the Orange Maniac is running a great campaign. I don't see that. And so this is very reminiscent to me of the Romney campaign in 2012. Brian, I worked on the Romney campaign, and whatever your political persuasion is, Mitt is a normal guy and a patriot. You may not like everything he says. He certainly is not endorsing Donald Trump, but he's a garden variety Republican.
Sure.
They thought they were winning, so much so they had fireworks in Boston Harbor, and there was a heavily suited man with orange hair that walked out of the Mitt Romney party 1 hour before he was supposed to. Again, he left with Michael Cohen. That was Donald Trump. And when I said to Michael Cohen, where are you guys going? Well, Trump doesn't want to stay for the concession speech. We came up here because we thought Mitt Romney was winning this election, and that's what it looked like to us internally. So that's the Trump campaign right now. So I love that. Okay, because unfortunately, Secretary Clinton, she felt that way. Mitt Romney felt that way in 12. And I can tell you the Harris campaign does not feel that way. I was in Pennsylvania over the weekend. I was in Green Lane, other parts of Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. In addition to eating cheesesteaks and clogging my arteries with them, I was banging on doors, going to events, speaking, providing advocacy, even talking to Trump supporters, see if we can move them. Lots of African-American men who are on the fence about voting. What are the key things they should be thinking about? Really pushing them, frankly, think about voting. And what I loved about that situation, Brian, is that people are nervous. People are working. She's knocked on 1 million doors. The Harris campaign, let me rephrase that. Harris campaign has knocked on 1 million doors since the convention. They're going to report over $1.5 billion raised. They just got $50 million from Bill Gates. They're well organized. They're a get out the vote situation. If you and I were doing this on July 22nd, and you said to me, Anthony, gun to your head, well, there's only one path. Should Harris get the nomination, there's only one path. That's through the blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
Right.
She's got 6 or 7 different paths now. So the Republicans imploded in North Carolina. They got the black Nazi down there. She's ahead of him in North Carolina, which is why he keeps dropping himself into North Carolina. She's ahead of him in Michigan. She's ahead of him in Wisconsin. She's tied with him in Pennsylvania. But we're all right inside the margin of error. So if you said to me, whose cards would you like to have? It's 12 days out. I want her cards. Why? Yeah. She's not, Donald Trump is running on 4 things. Okay. He's running on racism. I am a racist. He's running on misogyny. He's calling her very derogatory things. So I hate women. Okay. And also I want to take your reproductive freedoms away. Okay. And possibly your family through the reduction or the elimination of IVF. So it's racism, misogyny, it's anti-immigration. He speaks about non-white immigrants, Brian, to this country the way the National Socialists talked about the Jews in the 1930s. And then the third thing he's running on is cruelty. You know, the country's gone to hell, and I'm a mean SOB, cruelty, cruelty, cruelty. Okay, so maybe he can get to 46, 47, possibly 48%. Maybe that's his ceiling. He's never been able to punch through that. He's blowing this racist dog whistle very hard. She's out there working. She's not Hillary Clinton. You know, she's working. She's doing the work necessary to win the presidency. She's got the money. She's a very nice person. Okay. And she would do a very good job as president. She's not going to bring down the international world order. She's not going to put the economy into crisis with capricious tariffs. She's not going to try to rip up the governmental system that has served the American people so well that Trump is calling for. She's not a burn down the place person, but she's a person that wants to get us into the future. Now, what I said to them, and I'll just talk for one more minute, I'm sorry, but I said to them, you got to give a speech, a 2047 speech. He talks about Project 2025, which is basically the rise of fascism in the United States. It's basically what it is. If you look at the manifesto, I've suggested to them they talk about Project 2047. Why that number? That's 100 years after Jackie Robinson crossed into a baseball diamond and became a professional sports athlete in American baseball, but it paved the way for the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Voting Act, Martin Luther King Jr. You know, Martin Luther King told Muhammad Ali, without Jackie, I don't get anywhere. Barack Obama has said, without Jackie, I don't get anywhere. Without Martin Luther King Jr., I don't get anywhere. And she is a descendant of that baton pass. Right. It's Robinson to King, King to Ali and Obama and Biden, frankly, to Vice President Harris. Yeah. And what do you want the country to look like? Do you want Project 2047, where we're unified, we're less racially divided, we're more united, the United States of America, flatter, equal opportunity for everybody? No, she says she's a pragmatic capitalist. No equal outcomes, but equal opportunity for people. Let's get people to the starting block to excel in our country. Or do you want to go back to 1947?
Yeah, Trump, no, good point. Good point. If you're just joining us. Yep, go ahead.
What's 1947? So I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be long-winded, but
no, you're good. I love listening to you, Mooch. And unlike CNN, I give you more than 1 minute to talk. So that's a good thing.
No, I love you for that. And I feel like I'm talking like a New Yorker rapidly, but
I like that. I like that because you're a true New Yorker.
I want you to know what I'm thinking, and I want you to know what I'm sharing with the campaign. Mm-hmm. And so we've raised the money. We've knocked on doors. I am doing radio. You're in a swing state, so I am doing radio in Wisconsin, Michigan, doing local news. You know, Brian, I grew up in a blue-collar family. My dad watched the local news. Why? He had to go work outside. He was checking the weather. So if I can get 1 or 2 minutes on local news to advocate her positions and why she's better for unions, why she's better for wage growth, why she's better for a reduction in the deficit as opposed to an explosion in the deficit, I got to get that message out there. And if we can turn a few people, I think it's that close of an election. I would love to tell you that this was 2020 and Joe Biden's going to win the election quite handily, but it's not 2020. This is a different election. She can win it. I'd rather have her cards than his cards. And I like the fact that they're nervous. You know, if I came back from Pennsylvania and said, these people are so smug, you know, Hillary was smug. I'm just not picking on her, but the secretary.
I agree.
They were very smug. Everything's baked into the cake. Don't need to go to Pennsylvania. Don't need to go to Wisconsin. One trip to Michigan. You know what? We'll call into Nevada. You can't win the election like that. She's doing the work. Now, one last point on this. He did something that I liked. Okay. And I, dislike him. And I've had long conversations with John Kelly about his fascist tendencies.
Right.
But the McDonald's thing worked for him. Okay. And a lot of people think my other podcast colleagues on The Rest is Politics, think it didn't work. I think it worked because I know the voter he's trying to attract because I worked on his campaign in 2016. And so what would work for her, though, in my opinion, is the soaring speech. Obama gave it after Jeremiah Wright in March of 2008. Jack Kennedy gave it in Houston. People said, well, he's a Catholic. He can't be the president. He gave a speech and said, I'm a Catholic. I can be the president. Well, he's a black man. He can't be the president. Obama gave a speech. I'm a black man. I can be the president. I'd like her to give that speech. I'd like her. The people have pushed back and they said, well, Hillary tried to give, I'm a woman, I can be the president. It didn't work. Okay, but that was Hillary.
Right.
This is Kamala Harris. She's a different politician with a different personality.
Yeah.
And she knows how to grow a tent. I mean, if Bernie Sanders, Liz and Dick Cheney, and Anthony Scaramucci are walking into the same bar, Brian, that tells you that the person knows how to build a tent, right?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. You alluded to the McDonald's thing. I want to ask you just a couple other stories. Obviously the John Kelly story is a big one. Him praising Adolf Hitler, and I do believe he's a fascist as well. And in fact, Kamala Harris called him a fascist on CNN on the town hall yesterday. Yeah. He's talking about Arnold Palmer's genitalia. I mean, every day it's something new with this guy. Right. What do you make of his behavior? And does he seem to be getting worse? His mind deteriorating since when you worked for him?
Yeah, so he's gotten worse. He's losing some of his inhibition, which he could be sundowning, which is a dementia diagnosis. I'm not a doctor, but I don't like the behavior. If he was in my family, I would try to get him some immediate help. I would try to get him off the podium, And so, but these people want power. These people they want to bust or hurt the system for some reason. And so they're going to stick with him. Why, if he's a racist, a fascist, and has some dementia, why are 70 or 80 million people voting for him? Okay. And the answer lies in lots of lies, Brian. Okay. So the answer lies in lies. He's lying about the immigrants. Most of these people that come to the country are law abiding. He's saying they're committing crimes. He's saying that they're eating dogs and cats. They're not eating dogs and cats. He's trying to dehumanize them. He's doing what a fascist does. I have a scapegoat over here. All your problems are related to this scapegoat over here. Vote for me. I'm going to provide you very easy panaceas, very easy solutions to your problems. And oh, by the way, people that I don't like, I'm going to use the military to go after them to suppress whatever their potential adversarial comments are related to me.
Right.
That is the depth. That's right out of a textbook.
But Mooch, do you agree with me? And I mean this seriously. If Donald Trump tonight in Las Vegas, he's holding a rally tonight, went on stage in a Klan outfit and called Kamala Harris the N-word, I still believe not all, but most of the people would still support him. And I mean that. Do you agree with that?
That would trigger a lot of African-American men to vote for her. Okay. And so when I'm looking at the data, and this is what I said over the weekend in Pennsylvania, a lot of African-American men feel that she was a prosecutor. The law has been turned against them. They believe it's been turned against them unfairly. Okay. And they're not going to necessarily vote for Trump because they're smart people. They know he's a full-on racist. But they're like, I'm focused on this local race. I'm focused on this. I'm focused on that. But my message to those people is, hey, you've got two choices. Okay, this is my message to Kelly, my message to Esper. I wish George W. Bush would speak out.
Right.
You've got two choices, okay? Even my friend Mitt Romney not voting for either of these people. Well, why are you doing that, Mitt? Well, I want to have some say in the forward Republican Party. Well, it's not the time to do that, Mitt. The time right now is to protect the democracy and be a patriot first, a partisan second.
So you've had conversations with Mitt Romney about this?
Okay, so I don't want to go into that on the air because it's not fair to I'm not Ryan Lizzo, who did a number on me by talking.
Right, I understand.
Something I thought was off the record. But let me just say this. I have had those conversations with many influential Republicans. I'll say it very broadly. Someone I can talk more specifically.
Okay, so let me ask it this way, Mooch.
Kelly
Let me ask it.
Talk regularly.
Understood. But Mooch, let me ask it this way, broadly, in general terms, you've spoken to staunch Republicans who are not voting for either candidate. When you bring up the fact, and you're absolutely right, it's one choice or the other, and you make your argument to them, do you change any of their minds? What do they say in general?
Oh, yeah, no, there's no question. Esper is now voting for her. He said he wasn't in the beginning. He's now saying that he is. Kelly, Mattis, these guys have all said now, okay, it is a democracy issue now. The democracy's at stake. He's incredibly dangerous. He's acting very unstable. The Wall Streeters, I don't really get it. They'll have to have a reckoning with their conscience at some point. They'll say, why am I supporting this? What was it? I mean, let me tell you something. I got stained by supporting him in 2016. But in fairness, we did not have him as a president. We didn't have 4 years of what he was going to do as president. And then we didn't have 4 years in the post-presidency where he denied the electoral success of his opponent. And he threatened the democracy on January 6, 21. Right. So we have 8 years now of data on this human being. We know this is a very dangerous person to put back into office. We also know he wants to serve our adversaries. He wants to break up NATO. He wants to have the Ukraine partitioned, which means other former republics could probably go back into the Soviet Union. Not good for peace, not good for prosperity. He's the least American presidential candidate, Brian, in our lifetimes in terms of the way he thinks. He wants to divide us. He wants to shut down immigration. He disavows the Abraham Lincoln principle that this is the last best hope for mankind, womankind. He doesn't have a thought in his head about how we're all going to get along. He wants to divide us. He wants to pit us against each other.
Yeah.
And he's made a decision. If whites can't run the country via a democracy, let's bust the democracy.
Mooch, can you explain to the listeners, if in fact Donald Trump does win, and we both don't want that to happen, but if he does win, which is a strong possibility it could happen, what will his administration look like? If people thought his administration was bad in 2016, what will a Donald Trump administration look like if he wins in November?
Look, he's going to he'll bring in some, he's a name dropper, so there will be some unexpected people that will be brought in. But there'll be a sleeve of Bannonites and a sleeve of Heritage Foundation people that will wreak havoc on the system. He'll try to flood the zone with more conservative judges that are cronies to him. He'll try to flood the zone with the expansionary immunity powers. Okay, so he'll flex. He said publicly that he wants to move the FBI into the White House, meaning it no longer reports to the Department of Justice with all the protocols and checks and balances and safety procedures to protect Americans. It's going to go right into his office. He'll kick out the FBI director, put in a MAGA crony, and now he's got a little bit of a Gestapo going for himself. He wants to go after his adversaries. He will pick somebody at the FCC that will start fining media companies that are against him. Okay, it'll be a slow creep, Brian. It's not going to be boom, we're in 1933. He's going to boil the frog. That's what he's going to do. He's going to incrementally move things, and then he's going to say, if he's still not completely demented, he'll say, hey, I didn't really lose the 2020 election. I deserve to serve during that period of time, a result of which I am going to serve again in 2028. And here's how I'm going to do it. And they're going to move with him. They're going to move the rules with him. Yeah. Remember this about the immunity situation. If Richard Nixon and his minions inside the White House did the exact same thing that they did in 1972, 3, and 4, they did the exact same thing under the current immunity decision from the Supreme Court, no problem. There's not even a discussion, and there's no resignation. He broke into the thing. He stole secrets from the Democratic Party. He covered it up. Obstruction of justice, no problem. It's inside the ambit of the office of the presidency. He takes cover under that immunity decision. So Trump and his people will be working on that day and night. Mr. Trump, Mr. President, what else can we do under the aegis of immunity to make our movement stronger? This orthodoxy that no real American, when people really understand the orthodoxy, they don't like it. You want to deport people? 2/3 of Americans raise their hand and say, yes, I want to deport people. Okay. Do you want Handmaid's Tale armored vehicles in your neighborhood, Elian Gonzalez style, with SWAT guns, machine guns? Oh, no, I don't want that. Okay, once they take them out of your house, you want them concentrated in camps while we're trying to figure out how to deport them? Oh, no, I don't want that. Well, how do you think it's going to go down?
Exactly. That's a really good point. No, they don't think it through. You're absolutely right. That's what this country would look like if they implement some of the policies, especially when it comes to illegal immigration, what Trump wants to implement. So, Mooch, you've never been one to shy away from predictions. You've never been one to tell us how you feel.
She's going to win.
12 days out. Talk to me.
It's going to be like this close. If you invite George Conway on, he thinks she's going to win easily. I don't see that in the data, so I'm not going to come on your show and be bravado. She's going to win. And the reason why she's going to win, there's more of us than them. There's more people that want a less racially divided America, that want progress for everybody. There's more people that recognize that the economy's doing well. Let's not blow the economy up. My Wall Street friends, I'm like, dudes, he wants to take the Fed independence away, and he wants to make it dependent on him. Any country that's done that has blown their currency and blown their liquid capital markets. Oh, no, he's not going to do that. So you guys are voting for somebody who's promising to do things that you don't want to have happen. And you're making the statement, well, he's just saying that. But Brian, he said things, and if I was on your show in 2016, he's not going to do that. And then he ended up doing it, Brian. He ended up doing it.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So I don't know what else to say to people. Okay, we're out there, 40 of us. Right. Kelly is at the tip of the spear now. I don't know what else we could say to people. Hey, Brian, I'm in the pharmaceutical company. They're poisoning. They're putting poison in the pill. Don't give it to your family member. There's 40 of us that saw the pill get made. Don't give it to your family member, Brian. Oh, no. There's sugar in the pill. I'm going to take the pill. Okay.
Right. These people, there's certain people that you just can't reach, but you're on the ground. I love what you're doing, Mooch. And if Kamala Harris does win, it's going to be for a lot of reasons, but partly because of people like you that have the courage to go on the other side. And even though you don't agree with all of her policies, you're voting for democracy. And there's a lot of other Republicans just like you that I interview every single day on this show.
She's going to win, Brian.
I hope so, Mooch. I really do.
Thank you for having me on, bro. You're going to have me on after the election. I may be in an undisclosed location if I'm wrong, though. So I'll come in. My voice will be garbled and stuff. You know what I mean?
I heard a rumor you might be in Vegas for Halloween. I don't know if that's true. But Mooch, I appreciate you coming on as always, man. You're always one of my favorite guests. And let's hope we get the W. And I appreciate the hard work you're doing. Keep it up, my friend. Thank you.
God bless.
God bless you too. The Mooch, everybody. Lucky to call him a friend, and certainly a friend of the show, and always one of my favorites. Comes on, and there you heard it. The Mooch gave his prediction, and I agree with him. Everything he said. I don't think I disagree with one thing that entire interview. I think she's going to win. I think it's going to be really close. I'm still worried, but there's more of us. All right, so we have a couple more guests coming up here. Now's the time to take some phone calls. We got about 10, 15 minutes. We'll take some calls at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Rundown on what we are doing in hour number 2. He is known as Brooklyn Dad Defiant. He has 1.3 million followers on Twitter alone. He is a very popular left-wing blogger. Brooklyn Dad Defiant will be joining us here at the top of the hour. Then at the bottom of the hour, another guy with a huge social media following, a political commentator. You know him as Ed Krassenstein. He'll be joining us to give us the latest on these rumors that have been circulating over the last 24 hours that there's a video that's going to be released, allegedly, of Donald Trump grabbing the crotch of an underage girl. I don't know if this is true, but Ed has been on this for the last 24 hours, and he's going to give us the latest on that as well. We just had the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, joining us. He just gave us his prediction on who he thinks is going to win. And we'll be joined by those two guests. And we had Donald Trump to start the show, also known as John DiDomenico. I hope you enjoyed that. Number to call, 702-221-7283 if you want to be a part of the program. Again, that number is 702-221-7283. Without further ado, let's get to the phone calls. And who do we have first up on PTL? Let's find out here. Producer Numchuck, who is our first guest here on the lines right now as we... Mike. All right, let's go to Mike. Mike is first up. Mike, what's going on?
Not much, Brian. I agree with you and Anthony today, and my first time calling in.
Well, thank you.
I live in Colorado, and I recently had that person in Colorado. And
turn down your radio a little bit because we're on a little bit of a delay, sir. But go right ahead.
Okay.
Yep. Little delay in case people say some bad words. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, this is my first time listening to your show and talking to you.
Well, thank
I've
you.
been listening for about a month or two now.
Cool. Thank you.
I like what Anthony and you say. I really do. And every time I see somebody on Facebook posting, they they for Trump, I turn around and say, pushingthelimits.com. I comment to him, pushingthelimits.com or pushingthelimits.live.
Well, that's nice of you. I really appreciate. Listen, let me tell you something. I'm not perfect. The Mooch is not perfect. I hope we're both right. Donald Trump can easily win this election. I hope that doesn't happen. I tend to think that Kamala Harris has a slight edge. We can't be complicit. We have to make sure we vote.
Right.
We have to talk to our friends and family members and whoever we can to convince them to vote, to get off their ass, get out and vote. And if they are Trump supporters, we have to try to explain to them why we are not supporting Donald Trump and the threat he is. And that's all we can do, Mike. And if we keep doing it for the next 12 days, I think we're going to get the result, hopefully, that we all want.
Colorado started early voting on Monday, and I already turned in my ballot.
Good. Hey, get that Lauren Boebert out of there, too. Can you deport Lauren Boebert? Can we do that together?
Yeah, she's a pain in the butt. I met a guy selling some model train stuff to me, and he told me he knew somebody that knew her in high school and stuff. And he says, all she is some gal that wants a lot of attention. She's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
They got that video of her smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. Go take her to Beetlejuice.
I mean, if she can turn around and avoid the law just like Trump can, I mean, what good are those type of people?
But you're right.
Good.
You're right. They are no good.
They're
and
trash.
Absolutely, she's trailer trash. And that is the MAGA Republican Party, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Matt Gaetzes, the Jim Jordans. These people are despicable, and that is Donald Trump's base, period. Thank you for the call, sir. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's see, who are we going to next here? Mathan? Mathan is next up on PTL. Hi, Mathan.
Hi, Brian. How are you today?
Hey, good. What's on your mind?
Just a few things. I love your show.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say to everyone, whoever you vote for, please get out and vote. I will be working at my local polls on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and I'll be there to help you all, and I'm hoping I see everyone come out and vote.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. Maybe I'm not as nice of a person, but Donald Trump told his supporters to vote on January 5th, so I'm going to agree with Donald Trump. Mr. Trump said, if you're supporting him, wait, vote January 5th. So I'm just going by what Donald Trump said. Stay home and vote January 5th.
Great idea.
Well, I appreciate your call. It's nice to hear from you. Where are you calling from, by the way?
Fillmore, California.
California. Well, I can tell you right now, without the shadow of a doubt, and I'm not going to jinx it, there is no chance Donald Trump wins California. There are too many people in California that are on the right side of history, and I know you sound like one of them, my dear, and I appreciate you calling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's 84 degrees here today. I don't know how hot it is in Vegas.
Go Dodgers. Go Dodgers. Go Dodgers.
Yes, go Dodgers.
I appreciate the call, my dear. Thank you so much. 702-221-7283. Esther is next on PTL. Hey, Esther, what's going on?
Hey, I have a quick thing to say. I've been arguing all day long with these people in the state of Missouri over the abortion ban.
Yeah.
But then I turn the question around and say, okay, but you're voting for a convicted rapist.
Well, a convicted felon, liable rapist. Yes, you are correct there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I get crickets.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You get crickets and sometimes you get excuses. I don't know if this video is going to come out of Donald Trump grabbing an underage girl. If it does come out, it certainly doesn't help him. But, when Donald Trump is caught on tape saying grabbing women by the genitals, it didn't really hurt him much then. These deplorables are going to vote for Donald Trump no matter what. As he said, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'll still support me. But I'm still rooting for this tape to come out if it does exist. And we're going to talk to Ed Krassenstein coming up a little bit later on in the show to get an update on that. But I appreciate your call. I really do. We do have MAGA supporters that call into the show from time to time, and I don't think this one is going to be any exception. We now go to MAGA Julie. Hello, Julie. Thanks for calling in.
Hello, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Julie. How are you feeling about the elections?
Well, hopefully people vote for Trump because we don't want communism.
Well, when you say we,
the show View said that we Cubans are going to support Trump because we don't want communism. Because if you know that Democrats are pushing for agenda that support communism, Brian.
Well, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about communism. You said the Democrats are pushing an agenda of communism. Name me one policy that Kamala Harris has that you would label as a communist policy. Go ahead.
Socialized medicine. The socialized
so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So first of all, we are under Obamacare, okay? It saved millions of lives. So if you care so much about health care, can you please tell me what Donald Trump's health care plan is?
Brian, why do you have to be like trying to
Julie, we're having stop. We're having a conversation. Did she just hang up the phone? What a dumbbell. So you just said she has communist policies. I explained to you that she is for Obamacare. You're a Donald Trump supporter, and I asked you a very simple question. What is Donald Trump's health care proposal? He doesn't have one, and you get all defensive and you hang up the phone, you dope. Let me be very clear, Julie. Idiots like you hurt this country. Yes, Julie, I think you're an idiot. Not because we disagree. You can vote for whoever you want, but you call into the show and you call Kamala Harris a communist. I ask you to name a communist policy. You talk about health care. Kamala Harris is for Obamacare, and she's for helping Americans like you, some that are struggling living paycheck to paycheck, have affordable health care. She's for Obamacare, okay? Donald Trump doesn't have a health care plan, and that's why I asked you the question, because I knew you wouldn't be able to answer it. I knew you'd hang up the phone because you're a coward. Donald Trump has had 9 years for a health care plan. That's the first thing you brought up in this conversation. Health care. Kamala's a communist. Health care. And then I asked you, what is the health care proposal that Donald Trump has? You get defensive, you hang up the phone because you're an idiot. But even though you're an idiot, you still know Donald Trump doesn't have a health care plan. He said on a debate stage last month, he has concepts of a plan. He's had 9 years to come up with it. So you start the show calling Kamala a communist. You can't give me one logical reason why she's a communist. You can't give me one policy of why she's a communist. And then when you bring up health care, I bring it on you and I say, what's Donald Trump's health care plan? And you get defensive and you hang up the phone because you're a MAGA moron. So do me a favor, Julie. Make sure to take off your Donald Trump knee pads before you go to sleep. I hope you have your Donald Trump Bible by your side. And go ahead and vote for your rapist felon, Donald Trump. You are a deplorable. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Oh, man, I missed Julie's phone call. I'm disappointed. I like hearing her act like a total idiot. I feel like I missed out.
That was a good one.
Hey, what did you – I listened to that last night at CNN, and I used to watch CNN. I'm really disappointed in what they've become. Like, I just cannot – maybe I'm wrong, Brian. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic. I cannot believe that they had people that were Democrats that are saying, I'm on the fence, like, oh, I don't know. Donald Trump's a felon. He rapes women. He's a sexual assaulter. He tried to overturn an election, cheats on his wives. But, the fracking issue really has me on the fence. Are they gaslighting us, Brian, or do they really find these kind of stupid people that are out
forget about the fact that this guy praises Hitler and says COVID tests to the Kremlin in the middle of the pandemic. Forget about the fact that he's a liable sexual abusing 34-count felon. But these people want to talk about fracking. How about these morons that they interview, some of these undecided voters that well, I think she might have flip-flopped on that fracking thing. So, I'm undecided. You are an idiot. You don't have a brain. You're not voting for her because you don't like the fact that she switched her position on fracking, but you're okay with Donald Trump. You're okay with this idiot, a 34-count felon rapist. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, man. You can't.
You know what, Brian? The more that I've listened to lives on TikTok, it really feels like it's pure misogyny. A lot of people don't want a woman to be president because they've never been in charge. They don't think they're leaders. They want this toxic masculinity where they're a hammer and everything else is a nail. Like, and I'll give you one example. Look at the gun violence in this country. How many of those crimes were committed by men?
I agree with you.
99%.
Agree.
99%.
Yeah.
They watch football. They watch these slap sports. They play Mortal Kombat. They like the XFL. They want UCF. Everything that is in a guy's world is violent.
And by the way, these are the same guys that have such a problem with tampons in boys' bathrooms.
I know. I don't care. But how do we fix that? Because I feel like, and I dealt with this in Little League, Brian. A lot of this is toxic masculinity. They want a big, tough guy. I don't care if your leg fell off at practice yesterday. You're going to go play in the game on Friday. There just seems to be this imbalance of you can still be a strong man, but also be empathetic at the same time. And for some reason, our society poo-poos like you're some kind of a punk.
Yeah.
If you give a guy a hug or if you cry, like you're some kind of a pansy.
Yeah.
I don't know how you fix that, but that's what I think we're dealing with right now is that.
Well, when Donald Trump demeans,
I
agree. When Donald Trump demeans brown people and women and soldiers, there are some in the MAGA world, too many of them, that think that is power. And I think Kamala Harris said it best. That's not powerful and that's not strength. That's weakness. When you praise evil, murderous dictators, that means you are weak when you cave into them and write love letters to Kim Jong-un and send Putin, COVID test kits. That means that you are weak. And Donald Trump is weak. Yeah. He didn't show up at the town hall last night. He won't be debating Kamala Harris again because he's a coward. He's a draft-dodging coward is what he is, Paul. And I'm glad you called, my friend. Thanks for calling in. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. James is next. Hey, James, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, man? I got to vote yesterday on early voting, and
good.
In line, it seemed like everybody was on the same page. It really felt like that. I don't live in everybody's white. There's no diversity here where I live, but it seemed like everybody's on the same page, and they're not living in another fucking reality like that woman just called.
Well, I could say that they're definitely not living in reality. They're complicit at best. I think a part of it is these are people that are very uneducated. They're not well informed. Some of them are just plain stupid. And then others are very selfish, and they're doing it for their own personal, if you're in the top 1%, right, you're going to vote for Donald Trump. So selfish, ignorant, bigots, racist, you name it. I'm putting them all in the Donald Trump group. There are a few of them that are just ill-informed people. There's a percentage of them that are not bad people. They're just ill-informed. But a large portion of people at this point, in my opinion, that are voting for Donald Trump are just not good people. Let's go to, who are we going to next? Tones. Tones is next up on PTL. What's up, Tones?
Hello, Brian. Love your show. First-time caller. I'm glad I got through. So I wanted to bring up, I'm sure it's come up in conversation already, but the whole recent thing with former Chief of Staff Mark Kelly saying that, Trump wants generals that were like Hitler's. And, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with that. But on top of the obvious fact that it's Hitler, let's just take that out of the equation. Let's not see that, pun intended.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just go straight to the fact that, of all the generals in World War II, he likes the ones from Germany. Those guys lost.
Yeah, very weird, too. Yeah, very strange. He admires the Hitlers, the Kim Jong-uns, the Vladimir Putins, and I think he admires them for a couple different reasons. Number one, everybody has to kiss the ring and bow to their leader. It doesn't matter what is at stake, and it doesn't matter what the behavior is or the criminal activity, whether they're murderous dictators, whether they killed 7 million Jews. It doesn't matter what these dictators, alive or dead, have done. He admires them because he wants to be in that same light. Just like Mar-a-Lago, he wants to walk in a room and he wants everybody to clap and bow to him and kiss the ring. This is who this man is, and that's why he's so dangerous, right? He's so dangerous because if you just kiss the ring of Donald Trump and you praise him, he will give you what you want. Just ask Laura Loomer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why I think a lot of the the people in the Republican Party that, they're being apologists for him or making excuses, like they think, oh, God, I shouldn't talk against him because I'm going to fall out of favor with most of the voters.
Right. I mean, it's, and that's why I talk about this all the time, my friend, and I appreciate your call. Thank you so much for joining us. We will get back to the phone calls a little bit later on in the program, and Ed Krassenstein will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. However, I've been wanting to interview this guy for a very, very long time. He's one of my favorite follows on social media. We are on the same side politically. We understand how dangerous Donald Trump is. He is known as Brooklyn Dad Defiant, a popular left-wing blogger. As I mentioned, such a great follow, and he does a great podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
I love following you on social media. You do such a wonderful job. I have to ask you this to start, because I ask people this question all the time. Are you surprised, as I am, and disgusted that this race is as close as it is? You have a guy that's a 34-count felon, a liable sexual abuser. The list goes on and on with his behavior, his criminality. How is this race so close?
I got to say, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. But also, I think it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, too. And when I say that, I mean, I've heard that the Republicans have flooded the zone as recently as like the beginning of October. So they dropped a bunch of Republican weighted polls to make it seem as though Donald Trump is doing way better than he actually is. With that said, we're still, at the end of the day, we're still in a virtual tie. And I don't know if maybe they're not capturing the younger, the youth, because those youth are kind of very energized. They're activated, and they tend to not answer landline phones, which is what a lot of these polling organizations do. They call the landline phones in the middle of the day. The young kids, they consider it rude if you call them. I don't know if you know that. Like, well, you're kind of young yourself. Well,
I consider it rude, but I'm old. I'm 44. But yeah, that's a really good point, though, with what you just said. They're not really reaching out to the younger groups. It's usually, and we know, let's just call it for what it is. And I say this all the time. The overwhelming majority of Donald Trump supporters are middle-aged, older, uneducated white people. Let's just call it for what it is. That's just what it is, right?
Yeah. And here's another thing. I feel like they're also not capturing a lot of, a lot of Republicans who have switched sides. And be it for only temporary, they have switched sides just for the purpose of this interview. And I'm not saying that they're as extremely conservative Republican as, let's say, Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, or his daughter, but they're somewhere in the spectrum of, I'm pro-life and, small government, but I don't like a crazy dictator, as my president. So there's a lot of people who are just striking like an uneasy truce just this one time. And I don't think a lot of those folks are being captured. What I am seeing is like Kamala Harris, for whatever her faults and her shortcomings may be, in a really short period of time, like 3 months, she's done a remarkable job of first raising $1 billion in 3 months. Donald Trump has been running for president since he left the White House. He has the advantage of all of that cachet. As a vice president, the vice presidents, they don't get any screen time, no attention unless they misspell the word potato. That's when you hear about a vice president. But so most of America didn't have the benefit of getting to know her unless they were paying attention to the debates in 2020. So she's had to make up a whole lot of ground and cobble together the most insanely diverse coalition of support I have ever seen in my life. The white dudes for Kamala, comedians for Kamala, Republicans, the elderly, all across every walk of life has come out in support of her.
Yeah, we didn't
Not
have this
just
when Hillary ran. We didn't have this sort of movement, I guess you could call it, when Hillary ran.
energy.
Yeah, energy is another way of putting it. I want to ask you this question because I mean this sincerely. I mean, Donald Trump's in Las Vegas today, right? I asked Anthony Scaramucci this in the first hour when he came on, and I'll ask you the same question. I believe that if Donald Trump walked out on stage today in a Klan outfit and called Kamala Harris the N-word, he might lose a few votes, but I think the overwhelming majority of his base would still vote for him. I really feel that way.
100% right. In fact, I posted a tweet earlier today. I was saying that, I thought after all of the things that he's said and done over the years, and I'm saying over the years, taking it back to 2015, we can even go back to the thing that really pissed me off about him was how he treated President Obama with that whole birth certificate nonsense. I didn't even count that. But I'm talking about the Access Hollywood tape, grab him by the pee, disrespecting John McCain and mocking the disabled reporter, and all the way down the list. Nothing really took my breath away like hearing that he had said it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury an effing Mexican. That hit me like a punch in the gut. There was something about that was so vulgar and so ugly on so many different levels, because this is a guy who at the time was the sitting president of the United States, first of all. Secondly, he's addressing someone who had died, right? And not just someone, but a veteran, someone who was in our middle, someone who was serving our country, proudly serving our country. And then it was a woman, and then it was a woman of color. So you have all of these different levels. So yeah, it really. I tweeted earlier that this was kind of, to me, I identify as a black man. This was worse than him saying the N-word. I don't think I would be as shocked about him saying the N-word.
I don't know what it takes. I don't know. Brooklyn Dad Defiant. I don't know what it takes and what Donald Trump would need to do for some of these MAGA cultists to say, geez, I'm not going to vote for Kamala Harris, but I can't support this guy anymore. He's praised Adolf Hitler. You made the comment about the $60,000 funeral. That's how much it costs to bury an effing Mexican. This is a guy who bragged about sexual assault, who's a liable sexual abuser, who's attacked our brave men and women in uniform like John McCain. I don't respect him because he was captured. He's a 34-count felon. So if this video comes out, and listen, I don't know if this alleged video even exists, but if this video comes out of him allegedly groping a young teenage underage girl, I don't think that's going to make a difference. I really don't. Yeah,
it won't. We're already aware that he had a fixation on his daughter. We were already aware that he's made comments about, that what was it, 10 or 12-year-old girl on the escalator. I'll be dating her, and all of the other so-called unsubstantiated stories about like that Katie Johnson girl, the one who I guess she withdrew her lawsuit or something. And on and on and on. There are dozens of women who have stepped forward with credible accounts. Who, so it would just be one more that the MAGA crowd would threaten, and they would victim blame her, and call it a hoax and fake news. So yeah,
I'm curious.
It's really sad.
It is. I'm curious. You have an enormous following, and I definitely want to talk to you about that. But with the following that you have, and you speak for a lot of people that don't have, the platform that you have. If you were in a private room with Donald Trump, I'm curious, what would you say to him?
I would say you are a disgrace. You're a disgrace not only to New Yorkers. We despise you in New York, but you're a disgrace to Americans. you're a disgrace to humanity. You might act as though you are, unhinged and deranged or whatever, but I think you actually know better. I think you know better and you choose to act the other way. I think your behavior is abysmal. You have opened the floodgates to give permission to, as you call them, the uneducated, the poorly educated, and you've given them permission to be their worst person. And as a leader of the country, and you're not the president, but you are the main leader of a major political party. People look up to you, and you are expected, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, you are expected to uphold a certain standard of conduct. Look at all of your predecessors. Look at Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, who built houses for Habitat for Humanity.
Right.
Look at what he did. Even look at, for crying out loud, look at George W. Bush, he was probably the worst president until you came along, but he's quietly, shuffled off and doing his paint by numbers thing or whatever. He's not bothering anybody, but he's not
surprised though that
threatening.
he hasn't come forward. A lot of people are begging him to come forward and support Kamala Harris, or at least speak out against Trump. He's been silent. Nothing from George W. Bush. You got Dick Cheney that's come forward. Of course, her daughter. So many Republicans with courage, I think is the word I would use. Whether it be a Jeff Duncan, whether it be Joe Walsh does this show all the time. I love Joe. We just had the Mooch on. So many prominent Republicans that spoke at the DNC that worked in Trump's administration, the Stephanie Grishams, those kinds of people. And I commend all of them, by the way, because it's not an easy. At least Mike Pence has come out and said, "I'm not supporting Trump." I mean, that's something. I'm sure we both don't have a ton of respect for Mike Pence, but at least he did that. George W. Bush sitting at home doing nothing, my friend, nothing.
Yeah, it is disappointing. I wouldn't say surprising. It is disappointing because, again, like some folks tend to get like amnesia, right? For instance, and I wanted to talk about the amnesia in relation to my book, The Bigliest Loser. But before I do, the amnesia I'm talking about is with George W. Bush, right? Before Donald Trump rolled along, George W. Bush was an awful, awful president who got us into a war under false pretenses.
Correct.
And he's just an awful person, right? And people get amnesia because there was a funeral that he attended, and the Obamas were there, and I think like Michelle Obama, she's such a wonderful, graceful person, and she gave him like a candy out of her pocket or something, and
I remember
there were some moments that were like, oh, look at so she kind of gave him like a favorable, gauzy view or whatever, but that's that amnesia. People are forgetting how horrible he was. Can I curse on this show?
No, we are on the radio, but there are ways around it. But yeah,
because there's other words I wanted to use to describe George W. Bush, but I will refrain from that.
I think he's an imbecile. I mean, I don't think he's a very intelligent guy. I think nepotism at its finest. I think his father, while I wasn't a big fan of his father's presidency, I think his father had some class. And I think George W., I'm with you. I don't think he's a very bright guy. And with that being said, you're right. The war in Iraq was a complete debacle. Hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis died. Thousands of American soldiers for what? We found Saddam Hussein in a hole in the ground with a candy bar and a pellet gun. But if he just came out and he just held a press conference and said, listen, I'm supporting Kamala Harris, here's why, then I would have a lot more respect for him. But he won't do that. What do you make of the Republicans out there that know exactly who Donald Trump is? And by the way, that's most of them, right? We heard from Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and those that ran against him, right? Dating back to years ago when he ran for office. They know exactly who Donald Trump is because they've said it, but yet they still stand by him, and their excuse will be policy, right? Policy. What do you make of so many of these people that, in my opinion, have no moral compass?
They're cowardly. They're feckless. No moral compass. There's not really much you can say about them. Everyone down the list from, Mitch McConnell, First of all, let's start with Mitch McConnell, since he's got a book out now and he's on some kind of tour where he's trying to, I don't know, absolve himself and say the MAGA movement is wrong. Yeah, but you helped stoke that fire, didn't you?
Right.
Didn't you help enable that whole thing? You could have put this whole thing away 4 years ago by rallying the votes to convict him, but you didn't, so Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, who, at one point, he was wistful and tearful when he was, if you don't like Joe Biden, I don't know, something's wrong with it. He went from that and saying that if we nominate Donald Trump, the Republican Party will be destroyed and will deserve it. I remember that almost verbatim because it's like, we read that, ad infinitum. We read it so many times because it's so ludicrous what a 360 that guy did. He turned into a lapdog with no sense of self-worth or anything.
Like so many others in the MAGA base right now in the Republican Party. They're all the same.
Yeah. And it's like, what happened to your self-esteem that you allow yourself to that you prostrate yourself beneath this buffoon who is undeserving.
Tell me if you disagree. I think a part of it is they're scared because they know he holds a stranglehold over the Republican Party. And I think another part of it is the simple fact that they know that if they do not support Donald Trump, they're probably not going to be in power anymore. Look at what they did to Liz Cheney. Look at what they've done to Mitt Romney. I think it's a mixture of the two, and it's selfishness. They want to remain in power. J.D. Vance is a perfect example of that, right? I mean, he's a guy who called Donald Trump the next American Adolf Hitler, and now all of a sudden, he was a really good president. Give me a break. The guy's only out for himself. Let me give you another example of J.D. Vance, because I think this is important, what we're talking about. Do you remember when Trump invited Laura Loomer to the 9/11 ceremonies, right? You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Laura Loomer is the one who said, if Kamala Harris gets back into the White House, it's going to smell like curry. Well, J.D. Vance's wife is Indian. He was asked about this, and instead of stating the obvious like you or I would say, which would be those were despicable comments, he should be nowhere near Donald Trump, that was a mistake, he says, it doesn't matter whether you have fried chicken or curry in the White House, and then he goes on attacking her on policy. These people have no backbone. How could you be married to J.D. Vance and be okay with the way he answered that question?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can ask that about Mitch McConnell's wife also, who was horribly disrespected. Ted Cruz's wife, who was also horribly disrespected by Trump. You could go all the way down the list. And J.D. Vance himself is kind of, it's puzzling. What let me just say, what worries me about J.D. Vance, right, is that it almost feels as though they are trying to push Donald Trump across the finish line, no matter what tattered condition he is in. And then as soon as, God forbid, as soon as he is in, they like 25th Amendment him out of there, and JD Vance is the president. That's it's kind of what it feels like. But then JD Vance just said the other day that Donald Trump is in better medical condition or is healthier than he is. That's frightening. Like you really need to see a doctor.
Is J.D. Vance on his deathbed? Yeah, does he need help? And by the way, this is the same guy who won't release his own health records. Kamala Harris released hers, and Donald Trump criticized her for having seasonal allergies. You cannot make this stuff up. I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your book. Before I do so, I just want to ask you one more question. If somebody went up to you 10 years ago and said you would have almost 1.5 million followers on Twitter, which is astounding, but there's a reason for that. You're great at what you do. Like I said, you're one of my favorite follows on social media. But if someone told you that you would have this voice and you would be as popular as you are today, and if they asked you, 10 years ago, would you have believed it?
No, it's kind of it is kind of crazy. It was a fluke that I even joined Twitter. I was complaining to one of my friends that about some device I had. It was like a Samsung phone. He's like, "Oh, you should go on Twitter, and then you should tweet at that company." It might have been Samsung, and then they'll respond to you. And so that's what I did. And I got mixed results doing that, but I was tweeting like once a week, once every other week, not on a regular basis. When Donald Trump was awarded the nomination from the Republican Party to be president, something clicked in my brain. I was like, what the F is going on? And I went from tweeting once every other week to like tweeting 5 or 6 times a day, and then like 10 or 12 times a day. And I was mad. I was mad as heck. And I let people know it. And, there was nothing fancy about my tweets, mind you. I remember looking at other people's tweets and envying them and saying, wow, these people are so creative, how they like word their stuff. But it's, at the end of the day, folks, it's your own voice. That's what matters. You find your own voice and you put it out there. And you're not doing this to gain followers, but to gain community. And that's what happened. I found people, like-minded people who we were all on the same mission. We're all walking down the same road together, and you help each other out. And before you know it, I don't know how it's working now because Elon has messed up the algorithm on this
it's
site.
a cesspool of hatred and bigotry, and he allows it. That's another, but you're direct, you're to the point, you speak the obvious, and people need to hear what you have to say. And I think that's why you have the following that you have. And speaking of a following and speaking of voice heard, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your book and how people can get their hands on it.
Thank you.
Sure.
So the Bigliest Loser is the sequel. The first book I wrote was in 2020, The Littlest President, LIDDLE''EST. And it's an absurd title, and it's intentionally absurd because it was inspired by Donald Trump calling Adam Schiff Liddle Adam Schiff. And I was like, what is happening? This is the president of the United States attacking a member of Congress with an absurd title. I have to put this into a book. I'd never written a book before. And not only did I put it in a book, but I made the book look like a children's storybook. But it's not a children's storybook. And the first one is, pretty factually accurate. The second one, the sequel, I find this is the most important work I've done in my life, I believe, next to raising my kids, because it goes back to the beginning of 2020 when COVID just hit. And I feel like, remember I said earlier, I was talking about amnesia, collective amnesia. People are memory holing what Donald Trump did to this country by downplaying the severity of the crisis, the COVID crisis. He is responsible for a lot of the deaths that happened.
Sure.
He's responsible for a lot of the jobs that were lost and the businesses that were closed and the supply chain that was ruined. All of the stuff that happened, and people have to, oh, my gas was $1.99. You know what? It was $1.99 because nobody was going anywhere, because demand was down, because COVID had completely had the country in a stranglehold. So not only just that, but the book also covers January 6th. It covers all of his crimes. It covers his bizarre behavior. He is depicted as with a ginormous head and a tiny little body because he's a little petty man. And that's how he should always be depicted, as small and petty.
No question.
It is funny. It is a funny book. There's a lot of funny stuff in there.
Good.
He is depicted several times in diapers. He is also depicted in jail. So you can find this book on my website. If you're interested in an autographed copy, it's on brooklynDadDefiant.com.
Okay.
Or if you have like an Amazon account, it's on Amazon.com. When you type in The Bigliest Loser, it's gonna pop up The Biggest Loser, and then there'll be a link saying, did you mean The Bigliest Loser?
Well, hey, I want to buy this book. Besides all the great stuff in there, I certainly want to see images of him in a diaper. I think that's funny. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, listen, Brooklyn Dad Defiant, I love what you do. Your voice is so important, and you reach so many people. Keep up the great work, my friend, and I'd love to have you on again after the elections. Let's hope that we both get the result that we desperately want. And definitely check out that website, brooklynDadDefiant.com. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. Love to have you on again down the road. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me on the show. You are amazing at this job, by the way. The way you the host this show, you are fantastic. Thank you for having me here.
That means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot. And we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you. Stay safe out there in New York.
You too. Thank you.
All right. There you go. Brooklyn Dad Defiant, 1.3 million followers. And now we're going to go from one social media and popular left-wing blogger and influencer to another for maybe different reasons. But the guy we have right now joining us is Ed Krassenstein. He's a political commentator, and he was one of the first people that broke a story yesterday alleging that there is a video that is surfacing out there somewhere of Donald Trump groping a young teenage girl. And Ed Krassenstein joins us right now on the show. Ed, pleasure to have you on the show again, my friend. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I wouldn't say I broke this story because I don't even know if this video exists for sure. I'm just saying that people close to the Trump campaign say a video exists. But now keep in mind, these people didn't tell me what the contents of the video are. Other people on X have been saying that it's a video of Trump groping an underage girl. I have not received confirmation of that from anyone.
So you have great sources, right? And you have people attacking you on social media all day, probably even more than people that attack me every day. But you have some pretty good sources from people that you said are very concerned, which leads me to believe that there is something out there. Can you give me your sense of that? There's got to be something out there that is concerning the team, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people thought, okay, when this story broke that this woman who was a model and connected to Trump through Epstein was groped, that must have been it. And the people who I've spoken to say that's not it. There is another video out there. It's hard if you're the media right now, though, in the world of AI, and you want to make sure if you're reporting on something, you get it right, and you're not putting a fake story out there. You also want, and most of the mainstream media also needs double sourcing. So one source isn't going to be enough for them to report on something. So they're going to need to talk to those involved. They're going to need to talk to witnesses in order to actually put this out there.
Right.
I don't know if we see something before the election.
Really? Okay. So your sense is we might not see anything till down the road, even after well, that's unfortunate because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are on the Kamala Harris camp that want this out there now.
I do know that multiple media outlets have been contacted with what would be horrific stories to break for the Trump campaign. What those stories are, I don't know, but I do know that they have been contacted with these stories. What I also don't know is the truth to how true those stories are. Now, anybody can make up a story. Anybody can contact a media outlet and say, I witnessed this happen. So the media's job is to verify all those stories.
Yeah, and my next question was, even if there is a video like this out there, what real big difference is it going to make to so many, as I would consider, cultist Trump supporters? As he said, he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'll still support him. I'm not even sure it makes a huge difference. I mean, if there is a video out there and hypothetically speaking, it is released, we don't even know if it, like you said, a video like this exists. Do you even think it makes much of a difference?
That's a good question. I think if it's, and I don't want to say only, because if it's only Trump groping a woman who is over the age of 18, I don't think it makes a difference. And I hate to, like I said, I hate to say only because that's horrible if that exists.
Right.
If it was something like Trump groping somebody who is underage, I think that would make somewhat of a difference, at least for some people who are undecided. And it could have an impact on the election. But again, we're not there yet. I don't even know if this video exists that's been rumored to have existed of him groping somebody who's underage.
Gotcha. With that being said, I want to pick your brain on this. Obviously we're 12 days away. I want to get your feelings. I want to get your thoughts since last time you did this show, and I'll ask you the same question. I mean, my feeling hasn't changed in that I think it's a coin flip right now, this election. What are your thoughts? You talk to a lot of people. This is what you do for a living. On if the election was held tomorrow, it's not, in 12 days. Who do you think wins? Where do you think we're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I'm with you. I think it's a coin flip. I think it could go either way. And if I was to say right now what the odds are, I would say it's about 50-50. Like, I don't think I can say Harris has an edge. I don't think I can say Trump has an edge. Now, if you were to ask me about the Senate and the House, I would say Republicans are likely going to win the Senate probably by two seats. And I think Democrats are going to win the House by probably, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 seats. So those are more, I think people can predict that a lot better than the general election for president. But if Harris if she wins the election, I think we're still going to have a divided House and Senate. And if Trump wins, I think we'll still have a divided House and Senate. But I think it comes down to Pennsylvania.
Agree.
I think if Harris wins Pennsylvania, she's going to win the election. I think if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he's going to win the election.
Ed, I said that on the show yesterday. We think exactly alike. I mean, I said whoever wins Pennsylvania is probably going to win the whole thing. I am a little concerned about Nevada. You know, I had John Ralston on yesterday. A little concerned about Nevada, but I agree with you. I think Pennsylvania is a coin flip, and I think whoever wins Pennsylvania certainly going to win the whole thing. What does it say, though, about this country that we are living in today, that you have a man who's a 34-count felon, liable sexual abuser, his behavior, the things he says, you know, whether it be praising Adolf Hitler or suckers and losers, our brave men and women in uniform, that so many people in this country dislike either Kamala Harris personally or don't like the policies of the left, that this election is so close. I just can't wrap my head around it, Ed. What is your explanation for that?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think much of it is people disliking Kamala Harris. I think that a lot of people are voting for Harris because they dislike Trump. I don't think many people are voting for Trump because they dislike Harris. I think what it comes down to is inflation. I think inflation, and I don't think Biden and Harris are to blame for inflation. I graduated with a degree in economics. I know how inflation works. I know what the supply chain crisis did to the price of goods and services. I know remember when we had all the shipping containers stuck at port. I know what that did to the price of goods. I know what the war in Ukraine does to the price of energy. But that doesn't matter to voters. Voters see prices increased under Biden, and in their minds, if they vote for Trump, prices will decrease. That's not going to happen. We're not going to have deflation, right? Prices are where they're at. They're where they're at mostly because of COVID and the issues that the supply chain shut down, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have, no supply was being made and demands jumped up. Everybody wanted to, as soon as everything opened up, everybody's like, okay, let's travel. Let's buy, luxury goods with that money that we have in our accounts from both Trump and Biden. They both gave them checks, right? But they were saving that money. So people started rapidly spending, but there was not enough supply of goods and services to go around. So like an auction, if there's more bidders for the fewer products, the prices go up. But the problem with the economy is that once they go up, they don't come down.
Ed, I don't have the experience or education in this field as you do, but I agree with everything you said. And my argument to people is, well, first of all, look at the economy that Donald Trump left Joe Biden. Number two, look at where inflation is at now. I believe it's under 3%. Number three, you compare this country to the other G7 countries around the world. We're doing better than all of them. And, again, we talk about COVID. It's going to be gone by Easter, 15 cases down to 0 per capita. We were one of the worst countries in the world when it came to COVID deaths. You add all those things together, but yet they still want to blame Joe Biden for the price of eggs. And I kind of laugh at that. I mean, that's my argument. And I'm sure you go into it, as you just did, more thoroughly. But I think if anybody understands how inflation works and the basics of economics 101, you would understand that this is not Joe Biden's fault.
No, it's for the same reason that some independent voters are like, okay, I can't vote for Harris because of inflation. The same thing happened to Trump. The economy sucked when he left office, right? Unemployment was sky high. And it was because of COVID. I mean, it was mostly because of COVID, but people didn't vote for Trump because of their situation there. So I think Biden's seeing that same thing. Unfair. It's unfair to Biden and it's unfair to Harris. But that's how a lot of independent voters, people who don't really understand how the economy works, are going to be voting. And I think that's where the Harris campaign has to kind of counter that with the canvassing they're doing. And that's where they have the edge. They're canvassing very hard. Trump's campaign canvassing is almost non-existent for them. So I think Harris has a decent chance because of the canvassing. But like going back to inflation, no, it's not Biden's fault. It's not Harris's fault that we have inflation. It's a worldwide problem that we went through, and inflation's actually almost back to the preferred healthy level of 2%.
Mm-hmm.
But prices aren't going down. We're not going to have deflation.
Right.
And
right.
If we had deflation, that would kill the economy. The markets would crash. People would if you have deflation, prices start dropping. That means nobody spends their money. They hold on to their money because they know that in a month from now, and 2 months from now, and a year from now, they're going to be able to buy the same goods and services for a cheaper price. So they don't spend. And when people don't spend, the economy becomes stagnant, and we go into a recession.
Yeah. Last question for you would be, Donald Trump, he cancels a 60 Minutes interview. He doesn't want to do another debate with Kamala Harris. He doesn't do the town hall, which was last night with Harris on CNN. His campaign has said that, well, he's tired. I'm paraphrasing, but they said he was tired. And I'm even thinking to myself now, and I don't want to take a page from the right-wing playbook here, but I guess I'll say it this way. We both don't want Donald Trump to win, but if Donald Trump does win, is he even going to last another 4 years? I mean, J.D. Vance is going to be one heartbeat away from being the leader of the free world, the guy who won't even admit that Trump lost the 2020 election. Is that crazy to think that way?
Yeah, and Vance, what experience does he have? He's been a senator for, a couple years?
Right.
I mean, before that, he was nothing, basically. I think that's a concern. I think that's a concern Americans should have. Do we really want somebody as inexperienced as J.D. Vance running the country? I think part of Trump's reasoning for not doing another debate, not doing the 60-minute interview, and only doing friendly interviews. Now we see what he's going to do Joe Rogan, and I expect that to be a friendly interview.
Right.
I think it's just because he realizes that the more he talks to the broad public, the worse he does. He saw how poorly he did in the debate with Harris. He knows he lost that debate. His campaign knows he lost that debate. They know that affected him in the polls. So why would he do another debate? He sees it that if he doesn't debate her, he won't lose any ground. If he does debate her, he probably would lose more ground. Same for the 60-minute interview. He has to answer hard questions. It makes him look bad. So I don't know as much as about him losing stamina as we get closer to the election. I think his campaign's just telling him, the more you talk to the general public, the worse you're going to do.
Right. I think that's a really good point. And obviously, when he's doing these rallies, he's talking to a base of his supporters. But when he's speaking to America, like on a debate stage, it definitely hurts him. No doubt about that. Ed, I love what you and your brother do. You guys are doing such a wonderful job. Keep up the great work. Always appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on. And I know this next week and a half is going to be busy for everybody, especially somebody like you. So appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I actually got a preview of Brooklyn Dad's book, and it's really, really amazing. So,
cool. I'll have to check that out. He's a great guy. You guys have, between the two of you, you have like 2.5 million followers on X alone. It's really incredible, but there's a reason for that. You guys are really good at what you do. And it amazes me that you have somebody like a Laura Loomer on the other side that has a huge following, and she's just a dope. So I guess it could go either way, but I'm glad you have the following you have, because you're great at what you do, and you just preach facts, and that's important. Same thing with Mr. Defiant Dad, Brooklyn Dad. He's the same way. Thanks again for coming on, Ed. Always appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Appreciate that. Ed Krassenstein, everybody, really good at what he does. Same thing with Brooklyn Defiant Dad. Two really good people, smart, very intelligent people, and really appreciate them taking the time joining us. All right. Well, I did promise that I would get back to the phone lines. So why don't we take a quick break first, and then we'll have a little bit of time, the last 15 minutes of the show, to take some calls. Before I do that, what a show today, man. We had John DiDomenico, world's greatest Trump impersonator. We had Anthony Scaramucci on first hour. We had Brooklyn Dad Defiant on. We just had Ed Krassenstein on. Oh, and I have a treat for you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, do I ever. Guess who's joining us on the show tomorrow? Seth MacFarlane is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. Don't get bigger than that. He is a big Kamala Harris supporter. He's joining us to talk about that. The legend himself, Seth MacFarlane, will be joining us on the show. We're bringing out the heavy hitters, man. It's the final week, right? The final countdown, for lack of a better term. Seth MacFarlane will be joining us on the show tomorrow. All right. I tell you guys this every day because I get emails from people every day that say, how can I get more involved in the show? Here's what you can do to help. Subscribe to my YouTube page if you haven't already, at PTL Radio Show. Go to my website, pushingthelimits.live. This is an independently owned radio show. It costs money to keep the lights on. So you go to pushingthelimits.live, and you'll see a bunch of stuff you can buy, whether it be shirts, hats, PTL gear. You name it, we sell it. If you don't want to buy any of that merchandise, no problem. It would mean the world to us if you can check out the donate button right on the front page at pushingthelimits.live. Take you a couple minutes of your time, $5, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can afford. We appreciate it, and it helps support what we do here so we can bring you the best show possible every day. Check it out, pushingthelimits.live. And we cannot forget the official gaming bar of the PTL Radio Show, which is Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. I was just out there the other day. Great lunch, great food, great atmosphere. And at Jackson's Bar and Grill, they have some great gaming promotions, including the Pass the Puck contest during Vegas Golden Knights games. And you could earn $50 in free slot play if you get 350 points on a Sunday playing your favorite machine from noon to 8 a.m. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Coming up next, your phone calls. We want to hear from you. 702-221-7283. Get to your calls next. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
In these uncertain times, we need a leader who puts policy over politics.
I'm Ron Quince. I am beyond the bickering and what we see today. I am running to fight for your values, faith, family, and freedom.
Ron Quince stands for safe borders, lower taxes, and lower prices.
Let's take our country back, one community, one vote at a time. I am Ron Quince, and I'm asking for your vote because every vote matters. I am Ron Quince, and I approve this message.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Shelley Berkeley, and I approve this message.
Shelley Berkeley, a proud Las Vegan who shatters barriers, becoming the first in her family to attend college, and served as UNLV's student body president, serving in the Nevada legislature, the University Board of Regents, and 7 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives. Shelley excelled as the senior VP of the Toro University system. Shelley Berkeley, a dedicated mother and family woman. Shelley has the experience we need as our next mayor. Shelley gets things done.
Paid for by Shelley Berkeley for mayor.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I get to the phone calls, I want to share a quick story with you. So yesterday in the early morning hours, I received an email saying that I was credentialed to the Donald Trump rally in Las Vegas. Now, they credentialed me to a J.D. Vance event as well, and I didn't go to that. Keep my couches away from J.D. Vance. But I was planning on most likely going to the rally tonight. So they approved me. And then I get an email from the media, from the crew over there at the campaign, that I had to show up at the Thomas and Mack Center where the rally is going to be before 2:30 p.m. Donald Trump doesn't speak until 7. Think about that for a minute. They wanted to hold all the members of the media hostage for 4.5 hours. You can't go into the venue after 2:30 p.m. if you're a member of the media. So already I'm saying to myself, I don't want to do that. At a minimum, maybe I'd show up for an hour or two, interview some people, and leave. So I go on X and I say, guys, what do you think? Should I go to the rally? And a lot of you are saying go. A few of you are saying don't go. And then about an hour after that, I get an email from the Trump campaign that says my credential has been denied. And I kind of laughed at it because I probably wasn't going to go anyway because I didn't want to wait there for 4.5 hours to wait for the rapist to speak. But this is a dictatorship. It's the way Donald Trump has conducted himself since he ran for office, attacking members of the media that don't support him. Doesn't matter. We're members of the media. We are going to cover the event. But he doesn't want people like me, and his campaign don't want people like me at the event. They only want people that will cuddle him, the Newsmaxes types, the AONs, Fox News. So I laughed at it. I shrugged it off, and I said to myself, this is typical for the campaign. And Tim Walz is coming to town this weekend, and that'll be a much more pleasant event to go to, I'm sure. But I will not be going to the Donald Trump. I wasn't going to go anyway because I didn't want to wait there for 4.5 hours. I have better things to do, to wait for Cheeto Jesus to have another incoherent speech, which I'm sure will happen at some point tonight. So that's an update there. I just wanted to share that with all of you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the program. Let's go to Janelle. Janelle, first up here on PTL. What's up, Janelle?
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good.
But you didn't want to wait for 5 hours for Trump. Come on.
I know it
What's
sounds
up with you, man.
I know it's crazy. I know I'm very impatient. My
Ridiculous. Oh yeah, no, I hear you. Look, listening to the show today. Your show is always great.
Thank you.
I agree. One thing that makes me feel good that I've been seeing so far is the high voter turnout, like the early voter turnout. And that's actually giving me some good feelings and good vibes.
Sure.
I noticed that the Republicans are not really pushing that right now.
Right.
They're pushing these really, unicorn polymarket polls that I've seen that all over X right now. They're not even mentioning the high voter turnout in Georgia. Which to me is just wild. I think we know why.
I don't know what's going to happen in Georgia. I'll be honest. I don't.
Yeah, I honestly don't know too. But I know my gut is telling me is that high voter turnout. He has a ceiling, was said earlier. He does have a ceiling, and it's not a very high ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm using the terminology properly.
Sure.
I think that high voter turnout tends to favor her more than it does him.
No question. I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. And that's why I feel good about what I see so far. I'm not taking it for granted. I'm voting early. I'm encouraging everybody.
Pennsylvania.
I know to vote early.
Pennsylvania is so
Absolutely.
huge. And what I would say to Donald Trump's gut is telling him he needs to lay off the French fries, my dear. That's what his gut is telling him. Thank you for the call, my friend. I appreciate it, and I hope you're right. I think we should be encouraged but not overconfident. 702-221-7283. Let's go to David. David is next up on PTL. What's up, David?
Hi, Brian. Thank you. I just wanted to talk about your last guest, Brian Krassenstein.
Ed. I had Ed. That was Ed.
I'm sorry, Ed.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, I agreed with what he said about, people don't understand inflation. They wrongly blame Biden and stuff like that when it's not, personally his fault. But the one thing I kind of disagree with him on is he was basically saying that, or at least implying that Kamala's team was kind of selling. He thought she was doing a good job of selling the message that she was going to do a better job on the economy, and the polling doesn't really show that. I mean, even after the debate where Trump lost to Kamala, a couple weeks ago, the polls showed him even better in terms of handling the economy. And I'm not saying that he would.
But can I respond to that? Can I to what you're saying?
Yeah, I made my point.
And I understand what you're saying, but here's why I don't put any relevance to it. And that's just me. Here's why. In most polls, 3 out of 4 Republicans think that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. There's a lot of people in this country that are misguided and ill-informed. I'm not saying you're wrong. Okay? What I'm saying is there's a lot of people in this country that are ill-informed. They want to blame Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for inflation. They want to blame them if they lost their job. They want to blame them if they're not making the same amount of money they were making when Trump was in office. They don't take into account cause and effect. They don't take into account COVID. They don't take into effect the war in the Ukraine, what is going on in the Middle East. They don't take any of that into effect, and they want to blame Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for everything. So I don't put too much credence into that because you're not going to be able to convince some of these people that want to blame Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for their hangnail.
I agree with you. I agree that people are misinformed, but my point is just, again, I don't know where Ed's getting it from that he says she's selling it better because the polling doesn't show that.
Well,
the
again, the polling might not show that, but I can tell you this: she's selling.
But then I'm wondering where he's getting it. That's kind of my point.
Well, listen, I personally, I'm only speaking for myself, not a poll. I think she's doing a fine job in selling the fact what a threat Donald Trump is to democracy and the fact that she is for a woman's right to choose and that she wants to get that border bill back on the table. She talks about inflation. She talks about Israel and the Middle East conflict. She talks about $25,000 down payments for a home, what she's going to do for the black community. To the contrary of what some idiots on the far right might say, I think she's been very specific with her policies, and I'll debate that with anybody. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Robin. Robin is next up on PTL. What's up, Robin?
Hello.
Yes. Hi, Robin. Go ahead.
Hi. Well, I wish I had that other woman's confidence. Last time Trump ran, I went to bed thinking that Hillary was going to win and woke up with Donald Trump
as did I. So. Robin, you're not alone. You're not alone. Most of America felt the same way you felt, and that's okay. We were wrong. We can't be complicit. Yes. It doesn't mean that we can be overconfident.
No.
Let's just do our job. That's it. That's all we can do.
Exactly.
Right.
But
right.
Another thing I want to say is I can almost guarantee you that Vance is going to pull the 25th Amendment and he's going to end up our president.
I mean,
that scares me.
I guess that's possible. I'm not going to rule that one out, but it does scare me as well. Get all the couches away. Get your couches out. Get out of the way for J.D. Vance. Make sure you have a lifetime supply of eyeliner and a lifetime supply of lies, because this is the guy who won't even say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. He is a two-faced fool. He is an embarrassment to his wife. He is an embarrassment to the Republican Party, and he is an embarrassment to the country. He only is worried about one person. Whenever he does an interview or whether he's on a debate stage, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about America. He only cares about Donald Trump. That's why he won't say Donald Trump lost. He knows. J.D. Vance is not stupid. He might be extremely socially awkward. He might not have a spine. He might be a liar because he is, but he's not stupid. He does this because he's afraid of what Donald Trump, the repercussions of Donald Trump, if he decides to tell the truth.
Yes. Well, like I said, it terrifies me. I didn't even know who J.D. Vance was until he started running, and my brother lives in Ohio. My brother said, "Oh shit, Robin, you're in trouble."
Well, listen, we're not gonna be in trouble so long as we get the result that we want, Robin. And let's hope that happens in 12 days. And I appreciate the call. Let's go to Matt. Matt is next up on PTL. Hey, Matt, what's going on?
Hey, Brian.
What's up, my friend?
Good to hear you on the radio. You're an awesome guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What's on your mind today?
Well, I wanted to ask you what you thought about the impact of the media on the election.
Well, it's a very good question, and I'll answer it this way. Some members of the media have a huge impact on those that have been brainwashed since COVID. I think Fox News, Newsmax, and OAN have had a huge impact on brainwashing right-wing morons that are not very intelligent, that think the election was stolen. We know the whole Dominion voting machine nonsense. So there's no question they have an impact. Now, how much of an impact that will be in a week and a half, we'll have to find out. But I do think Kamala Harris going on Fox News, and I do think Kamala Harris doing a bunch of interviews in the last few weeks is going to help, and it'll impact positively on her. There's no question that the Sean Hannitys of the world, the Laura Ingrams, the Tucker Carlsons, Newsmax, and OAN are despicable. They spew lies and propaganda, and sadly, there are a lot of idiots in this country that are not very intelligent and can't make up their own mind, and they're just brainwashed. I've worked with people in radio that are completely brainwashed. And I don't talk to those people anymore. So to answer your question, yes, it has an impact on people's lives. It'll have an impact in the election. All right, quick programming note for you. Besides checking out the website, pushingthelimits.live, we sell merchandise up there. You can donate. There's a donate button there. Programming note for you, we have a couple very special guests on the show tomorrow. Of course, Nicole Mitchell is going to be joining us. We have a lovely lady joining us on the show who is in the adult entertainment industry. And she's not voting for Donald Trump, and she's going to tell us why, and it has something to do with her industry. She's going to be joining us tomorrow on the show, and boy, is this going to be a treat. I cannot wait to talk to this guy tomorrow. He is a huge Kamala Harris supporter, but we're not going to be talking to him about his incredible career. We're going to be talking politics with the great Seth MacFarlane is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. How about those guests today, though, man? Holy smokes. How about John DiDomenico from the Howard Stern Show, best Donald Trump impersonator in the world? We had Anthony Scaramucci joining us on the show. We had Brooklyn Dad Defiant who joined us on the show today. We had Ed Krassenstein who joined us on the show today. Man, it takes a lot of work to get guests like that, but we're going to continue to do it for you every day, even after the election. We're not going to hold up at all. So I appreciate all of you for joining us. Do me a favor, subscribe to my YouTube at PTL Radio Show. Check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. Seth MacFarlane will be joining us on the show tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow.
In these uncertain times, we need a leader who puts policy over politics.
I'm Ron Quince. I am beyond the bickering and what we see today. I am running to fight for your values, faith, family, and freedom.
Ron Quince stands for safe borders, lower taxes,